Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching.
It's December, and we chose that scripture because we feel it kind of wraps up the last 2 months. And that's right, it's been 2 months since we've posted one of these videos, and we have a lot to cover today.
So the last time that we left you, we were at the Annapolis Boat Show. We returned to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, to continue to fellowship and serve with Maritime Ministries. We've been connected to this amazing group of people for about 1.5 years now, and their mission is to serve, share, and sail. They minister to boaters that come up and down the intercoastal waterway, and they just love on them. They share the gospel with them. They serve them. Sometimes they even give them rides to the laundromat and to the grocery store. It's just a really neat opportunity to share the love of Jesus with anybody that comes through. So we really enjoyed being a part of that. And so we'll kind of give you a little bit of insight to some of the things that we did there.
So yeah, we spent the majority of our time helping out the Kerner family. They've been working on their 47-foot boat, which they named Selah, for 2 years now, and doing a complete refit on it to make it usable for their family of 5 to live on and minister from. We helped them do some interior projects on it, from completely building out some bunks and moving bulkheads and cleaning out the water tanks, all that sort of stuff, to wiring, and even installed solar panels for them.
Yeah, we also got to assist the Whipple family work on their 40-foot custom catamaran. They've been building that for the past 10 years. So we all gloved up and jumped in to help lay fiberglass on the boom of their boat. The girls are really familiar with that process, and so we had a great time just putting our hands to these projects, and of course enjoying all the fellowship that came along with that.
Yeah, for sure. I also even got to do some sailing while we were down there. They needed to move one of their special boats. It's a completely wooden, custom-made, it's 1974 or something like that, Colin Archer lifeboat. Thing's super stout, and we were taking it down to the boat show so that they could exhibit it, just to draw some attention to their ministry and stuff. So I got to sail it down to the boat show and then sail it back home from the boat show.
So what was cool about Paloma as well is before she went to the boat show, the girls got to put their hand in helping get her buffed up and cleaned up for the show. So that was
several days painting it, polishing it up, making it nice and pretty.
Yeah, so it was awesome to be able to serve in that capacity as well.
And then we even got to take Selah out for a day on the water as well with the Kerner family and our family, and just spend the day on the water sailing that.
That was super fun. Both the girls were excited to get behind the helm, and so they both drove the boat for a little bit, and we got to sail. So that was an amazing time.
Absolutely. And then unfortunately our time there had to draw to a close. But before we left, we were actually blessed with a generator from the ministry to help us keep things charged up here in the camper. Our power needs have increased over the years, and the solar just isn't keeping up. So we've been talking about adding panels or buying a generator, and as we were talking about it, they said, we have an extra one. Here's a generator. So that was a huge blessing, and really awesome.
So thankful for that. But what's awesome is being able to meet together and fellowship and worship together. We had lots of opportunity to just come together for certain nights and pray with one another, and just process what the Lord has called us all to. We're very like-minded, and so that was just a sweet, sweet time.
We definitely have a special place in our hearts for that whole group up there, and look forward to spending tons more time with them.
Yeah. So these next couple weeks were super, super busy, fast-moving, lots of travel across a short period of time, but definitely intentional and definitely blessed by it. So we left Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and we headed for St. Augustine, Florida. And we got to join SSCA, which stands for Seven Seas Cruising Association, for their annual GAM, which is a gathering of mariners.
SSCA is actually a huge supporter of Hope Fleet, so they invited us to talk to their members about the different operations and ways that they can volunteer with and get involved. It was actually a huge blessing for us to be invited and just go meet and mingle with all these cruisers. You know, they're definitely the core or the meat of who we feel called to minister to, and we learned a lot too. There's tons of cruisers who've been out on the water up to 20, 30, 40 years even, and they've just really honed their skills, and they're just open to sharing that with everyone in the group. And
like a wealth of knowledge in that group, and we also were able to witness the love of Jesus in that place. And it was just a special time to be able to do that as a family.
We even got several compliments to just how our family walks, and we could tell that it was definitely poking certain
impactful
people. Impactful. That's a good word.
And they were inquisitive because we had the camper sitting there, so they were kind of like, you guys live in the camper? We're like, yeah. And they're like, well, where's home? We're like, well, we're full-time in the camper. So we got to testify to the Lord calling us out. They're kind of on a similar journey, a lot of them living full-time on their boats, but don't quite have a purpose for the kingdom for it. So that was special, being able to testify to God's faithfulness and the way that he speaks to his people. We're excited for the seeds that got planted there.
So after the GAM, we headed to Lexington, Kentucky, which at the rate that we move is about a 3-day trip for us. In the camper, and we utilize lots of different ways to find free spots to park while we're moving, and one of them brought us to a really cool place that calls itself Winging a Prayer in southern Kentucky. It's actually a church. Yeah,
so we use a site called Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Host, and so I usually look at their profiles to see what the people are into. And so we've had several along our journeys over the last 3 years where I found people that state that they are missions minded, or like Tim said, this was an actual church. And so a lot of churches have put themselves on this platform for campers to come, and it's their way to witness and minister to people coming through, which we thought was awesome. That is very much like what Maritime Ministry does with boats that come to the docks.
The dock ministry.
And so I wanted to see what these people were about. So they met us the morning that we were headed out and gave me a little gift bag. It had a t-shirt in it. It had a Bible that will help you share the gospel with people. It was just a really, really neat stop.
We arrived in Lexington, Kentucky, and we were there for ICOM, which is the International Conference on Missions. We were there to attend as exhibitors for Hope Fleet. It was a really cool event. We totally weren't expecting it to be as big as it was, or to have so much stuff going on. It was very encouraging and enlightening, and just a cool thing to be part of. I definitely would recommend anyone to attend it, just for the amount of encouragement and stuff that happened there. It was really cool to see that they even had a full conference just for kids. The whole middle school, high school area, they called it SICOM, Student International Conference on Missions, and they had their whole separate thing going on all day long, each day. And the girls loved it. When they were done, they were just like, can we come to this again next year? So that was really encouraging for us as well. Right.
Yeah. And for parents of young children, they also had a section for Jessie's age to go and be poured into as well. So we took advantage of that, and she got to spend some time with kids her own age and have some other people pouring into her. So that was a blessing, as well as we got to sit at the booth and mingle with other missionaries.
Yeah. The cool thing was it wasn't just go sit at a booth and talk about Hope Fleet. They actually shut the exhibitor hall area down every time that they had a message or worship or anything like that going on in the main sessions. Which is awesome. That's how it should be. It's not about just promoting everybody's ministry, but it's about coming together as missions minded people to encourage each other and
gather together,
sharpen each other, and worship together, and all that stuff.
And I think you had seen something afterwards that there were 7,000 attendees.
They sent out an email that over 7,000 people attended.
7,000 people, and I know with the exhibitor list, I think there were over 300 exhibitors. So it was pretty big, and I had never heard about it. So I was super excited that we got to go, that our family got to attend, and that we also got to get the word out about Hope Fleet too. There were lots of people that were interested in being like, what? You can sail ministry, what? So that was kind of cool. But we also were reunited with some of our church family. There were several people from our home church, Christian Life Fellowship down in Florida, that attended ICOM. We just really enjoyed getting to hug on them and be encouraged by them. It was just a really awesome surprise. There was another encounter at our booth, actually. There was a gentleman that had come up, and he was talking to us and saying, hey, can you tell us a little bit about your ministry? And so we talked about Hope Fleet, and he said, hey, do you guys know a guy by the name of Dan? And we were like, yeah, we know Dan. And he said, oh, well, I donated my boat to Maritime Ministries. And we were like, what? And so we got to meet him. His name's David, and tell him a little bit about our hearts and why we're moving in the camper.
And he was shocked because when he said that, we knew the boat.
Yeah, we'd been on the boat.
We're like, we've been on the boat.
Yeah, it was just a neat divine appointment, I would say. Yeah. And so we were encouraged by him. We got to kind of share our hearts for our family, not only our involvement in Hope Fleet, but what we feel the Lord calling us to, and the fact that that we're also waiting for a vessel. So the fact that he was a donor was really awesome. And so we reached out to Dan, and we're like, hey, guess who we met? We met David. And Dan messaged us back right away and was like, hey, David just messaged me and said he enjoyed meeting you guys, and he wanted to help you guys find a donated vessel. So that was really cool. We don't know if anything will come out of that, but it was just a really neat, sweet moment from the Lord. Something else that was really surprising was our friends Derek and Tracy Ulmer. They serve in Japan, and so they are home, and they were in Lexington at ICOM as well. Derek had approached us at the conference and had said, hey, there's an opportunity for missionaries to speak in front of youth, and I thought you and Tim could potentially share your story of hearing from the Lord and stepping out in faith on full-time missions. Would you be willing? And so we wrestled for a day and a half, talking through it, kind of thinking through it, praying through it, because at this point we had done a lot of travel. We had been put lots of miles on, and we were tired. So we needed to be fueled and reignited a little bit. We were kind of like, man, do we have something to give right now? But through much talking and praying and asking the Lord, like, hey, is this an opportunity we should grab a hold of? We said yes. And so we wanted to be ready, as the Lord says, to testify to his goodness and his faithfulness. And so we got to sit in front of about 30 youth from a youth group.
Every bit of 30,
Yeah.
Yep.
And share our story of hearing from the Lord and inquiring of him. It was amazing. I'm so glad that we said yes to that. And
for sure.
The Lord was faithful to give us strength and energy and words before them.
It's a good testimony to that. I don't feel like it isn't a good enough reason to not.
Yeah.
So your flesh will always fight you in the moment. So.
Yeah. So we fought back. And
but afterwards, it was very energizing and exhilarating, actually. So we're super happy that we stepped into that moment and actually presented and shared, and it was very encouraging to the kids as well.
Yeah, we got to encourage the youth. That was...
and their leadership, too. So ICOM was just awesome, totally worth the drive to get up there. After the ICOM, we got invited to just come and rest and relax at this place called Third Day Farm.
So we had no idea what to expect, but we had talked to our friends, Tracy and Derek, and said, hey, we kind of would love to stay around, maybe fellowship with them a little bit longer and just breathe for a minute and press in. So Derek had reached out to a friend of his. They have this amazing property.
They feel the Lord told them to go buy that property and devote it to respite care for pastors, ministerial staff, missionaries, anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool blessing to be able to go and just disconnect for a handful of days. And what's really cool is the girls even got to play in snow while we were there.
They did. It snowed. A storm came through, and they got to have some snowball fights, which was awesome. And then the owners of the property invited us to dinner, and so we were able to go have dinner with them, and they could share their hearts for what they're doing, and we got to share our hearts for what we're doing. So we have some new friends. Yeah.
for sure.
And they invite us back whenever we come
absolutely. And if it's a place you want to learn more about, just feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get you connected.
Yeah. It also allowed us to connect more with Tracy and Derek Ulmer and their kiddos. They are full-time missionaries in Japan. We got to glean some wisdom from them as well, as we continue to walk this journey, and it was iron sharpening iron and just some true fellowship. So we're so thankful for that. It was really timely and fueling for our hearts.
Yeah, and then it was time to leave there as well. It was getting cold, and campers don't do that great in cold. So we decided it's time to head back to Florida, and we had already been planning, honestly, to come down to Florida for most of the winter. There are some potential projects on the board for us to work on. So we started planning our route to Florida.
I do a lot of the planning and the stops and kind of what route we're going to take. I was thinking about not going through Atlanta and kind of just doing a little bit of a detour.
Especially not towing this thing.
Yeah. So
we're like 60 feet long, and dealing with all that traffic is not fun.
So I had already in the back of my head said, the gates are in Huntsville, Alabama. I wonder if they're available. But I didn't say anything to Tim. I was kind of just playing out the different options. And then one day you're like,
we need to go by Huntsville.
We should go through Huntsville. I'm like, I was just thinking that. So Tim reached out to our friends, and they said, come on. Yes, come park the camper. Come see us. We would love to fellowship.
So we actually met them 3 years ago at Black Granite Retreat, and have stayed in touch and seen each other here and there as we both been traveling. They were full-time in their camper at that time. We were full-time in our camper. They were from Florida. We were from Florida. So obviously we connected real quick on
all those levels.
All those different levels,
So we were able to glean some wisdom and some counsel from them as we fellowshipped with them. We got to go on a really pretty hike through the mountains up there, and our girls just love their daughter, Miranda. She is an inspiration to them. They look up to her, and so they got some special time with her as well. We stayed up there for 2 nights, not only to just fellowship with them, and they were so gracious to let us pull right up there behind the church, but we stayed because we had more tire saga.
Yes, that's true. It's been nonstop with tires. Since we left Florida, it's been tire issues. Yeah, we had another flat tire on the way from Kentucky to Alabama, and had to change the tire.
But that was a really quick process, which was good.
We're like a NASCAR team at this point.
Right. We got to stay an extra day because of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then from there, we were racing to get down to Southwest Florida before Thanksgiving, if we could.
Yes. So we made our journey down and had another truck issue.
Right.
We were literally within a couple hours of arrival the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and we had more truck saga.
Right. Just as we were coming past Tampa, all of a sudden I started hearing a weird whooshing sound, which I thought was the cars next to us, but it wasn't. It was us. And so we pulled off near Bradenton, got into a parking lot, did some inspections, and realized the truck bearing was toast.
Yes.
To the point that I didn't trust it to finish the drive home.
Yeah.
So we, right there in the parking lot, dismantled the whole front driver's side of the truck to get to the hub, and
and meanwhile,
swapped it out right there.
It all worked out.
Yep.
It was a little inconvenient, but it all worked out.
Yep.
And we still got to...
And we were able to slide into my parents' house with a couple hours to spare for Thanksgiving.
Yes. We got here that evening, and Thanksgiving was the next day.
Yep.
So
that's where we're at right now. We're sitting here in Southwest Florida, pressing into the Lord about what He's going to have us put our hands to this winter.
Yeah. We've already had some cool things that He's aligned for us, and we are still waiting to hear for more. We will be in Florida, we believe, for a good part of the winter. In this exact location, not sure. Definitely through New Year's.
Right.
And we're praying and waiting. We are continuing to fulfill our roles.
This time of year, things really pick up with Hope Fleet. We've already loaded 3 boats, 2 of them have already made their deliveries, one to Exuma, another one to Abaco. We have another one that's going to be going into Abaco here shortly. And several other people are signing up, so throughout this whole season we'll be engaging with the boaters that we can here in Florida.
So loading up these boats and being able to have them carry these supplies is really impactful to the cruisers, and that's a huge part of our heart, is impacting the cruisers as well as impacting the ministries in the islands. So the last 2 months have really had us engaging with all kinds of different people on the water, people part of ministries that have to do with boats. And so that's really our heart, is to minister on the water, witness on the water, and continue to pursue the Great Commission across the water. And so over these next couple weeks, we're going to continue to engage with boaters through loading boats and coordinating boats as our work with Hope Fleet continues. We also feel really called to deepen our relationship with Maritime Ministries and the families that are a part of that. Whatever else the Lord puts in our lap. We just love being available. I would say our prayer requests would be in line with all of that.
So yeah, if anything that we've talked about or shared about has pricked you in your heart, and you just want to learn more about it, or maybe get connected in it in some way, or just talk to us deeper about exactly what we're doing, feel free to just reach out to us.
That's what we got.
I think that's it.
Yeah, we appreciate your prayers.
I'm pretty much out of coffee, so
I think me too.
That means I'm out of things to say. So we will see you next month.
Thanks for joining us.